solution. So here's the deal. Any solution has to begin with reality. And one of the first important things that we have to do in order to embark upon a resolution of the conflict, to the extent that it's possible to reach one, to the extent that I have the power to change anything for the better, not being an Arab who rejects Israel's right to exist, but rather being an Israeli or being an American, what can I do? So first of all, you have to look at reality straight in the eye and say, okay, this is the situation as it is. And given that this is a situation, that the fundamental cause, the prolongation of this conflict is the Arabs' refusal still today to accept Israel's right to exist, I have to realize that I don't have the capacity to resolve the conflict because I'm not an Arab. And I can't change their minds. They have to change their minds. I can't, take a magic wand and point it at 85 million Egyptians or at 4 million Palestinians or at 100 million Arabs and say, accept me. And then, with some fairy dust or something thrown into the mix, they'll suddenly say, okay, wonderful, we will. No, it has nothing to do with it's beyond the capacity of Israel and the United States to convince the Arabs. It's something that they have to do on their own. So one thing that America could do, Israel really doesn't have the capacity to do so, is to encourage Arabs, empower Arabs who want to accept Israel, who want to make peace with Israel, fund their think tanks, fund their educational programs, empower them, help them. Because the stronger they are, the stronger will become a constituency which today really doesn't exist in the Arab world to really resolve the problem by accepting Israel's right to exist in whatever size. So that's one thing that America can do, perhaps through public diplomacy or through funding of different foundations, private foundations, non-governmental foundations in Arab countries. That's one thing. The Obama administration, unfortunately, has curtailed all U.S. support for democracy movements in the Arab world, but they might perhaps want to reconsider that. But aside from that, what can be done? Well, what can be done is that Israel can secure its own interests, recognize that its own neighbors in the Palestinian Authority are terrorist bound, set and committed to its destruction, and therefore take whatever military steps necessary to prevent them from continuing to harm it. It can stop and should stop with the encouragement of the United States trying to appease unappeasable terrorists and accept them for what they are, unappeasable terrorists, and fight them until they realize that they have nothing to gain by trying to kill Israeli men, women, and children. So these are the kinds of things that the United States and Israel can do, and they're important to do because what they'll really do is bring clarity to a situation that unfortunately over the past 15 years has become extremely murky. We have given terrorists reason to believe that they can win by appeasing them, by constantly blaming Israel for the absence of peace. What the United States and consecutive Israeli governments have done is encourage them to continue killing. Because not only have we said that there's no price to be paid for their bad behavior, we've rewarded their bad behavior, and that has to stop. We can't get the Arabs to change their mind about Israel, but we can stop giving them reason to think that their rejection of Israel is the key to their survival as regimes and to their success as communities. The Palestinians, by rejecting Israel, have become the largest international aid recipients in the world, in fact, in human history. We can stop rewarding them for bad behavior, and I say that if anything that can be done, if anything can be effectively done to change the minds of the Arab world, the first thing that you can do is stop doing harm. Stop convincing them that this is a good idea, this is a reasonable policy for them to put forward. What I call this plan is not a peace plan, and it's not a pie-in-the-sky idea that everything will be resolved as a result of doing this. I call this a stabilization plan. We want to stabilize the situation. You stabilize the situation by taking active measures that destabilize the situation. When you empower terrorists by giving them land, by building up military forces under their command, by giving them money to spend on expanding still more their capacity to kill and to corrupt their own societies, you are stabilizing the situation. When you stop it, because you stop destabilizing the situation. So just as by definition, when you empower terrorists, they are empowered. When you stop empowering terrorists, they stop being empowered. And that means that their ability to cause you harm is decreased. And to the extent that you're decreasing their ability to cause you harm, you're stabilizing the situation. You're making it better. You're making it more secure. You're making it more peaceable. We have to stop thinking that we can sign a treaty at some big party on the White House lawn or at some international convention center in a European capital or in Israel somewhere, and that everything will be fine. Mankind doesn't operate like that. People don't think like that. They don't behave like that. People are moved by evolutionary changes. Over time, it takes time. You have Palestinian society, Arab world at large, that has been indoctrinated for generations to seek Israel's destruction. It's not going to change because some dictator in this country or that country signs a piece of paper with a Jew. It's only going to change when they don't have any reason to believe that by fighting the Jews, they're going to be victorious, or that they will be able to increase their fortunes by supporting terrorism, or anything else for that matter. And these are the sorts of things that Israel must do. These are the sort of things that the United States should do. And that involves a complete change of American policy and Israeli policy. It involves going back to the pre-1993 understanding of the nature of the Middle East conflict. That it isn't about land for peace. It isn't about Israel's size. It's about Israel's existence. And until the Arab world truly accepts Israel, that means teaches their children to accept Israel. That means teaching their military forces that they shouldn't be training for war against Israel. That means stop having mosque preachers calling for the elimination of the Jewish vermin. Until that happens, the conflict will continue. The most that we can do is take away any impetus we may be giving the Arabs to believe that they actually stand to gain from advancing the cause of Israel's destruction. So that's a stabilization plan. And that's the skinny on the two-state solution, which is no solution to anything except perhaps for the yearnings of people who wish to see chronic war and instability in the Middle East. Thank you very much for listening.